Okay, so hi guys, this is Gemma from ASD Rocks with Richard Eisenmajer from the ASD Clinic. The idea of this is that we have someone who is immersed not just in the world by living in it, but actually practicing in the world. And so we have someone to answer our questions because you do have such a varied variety of people that you see, and they're all on the spectrum, and having verbal adults
who can
answer and explain it.
Yeah. Most people on the spectrum will have issues with executive function. So in fact, the most common co-diagnosis, but also misdiagnosis, will be ADD. So attention deficit disorder, and if they're a bit busy, ADHD. So those ADD and autism are different conditions, but they both share a common weakness in their executive functions. So the way their frontal lobes work. So things like, and these are all very, that's what you need in modern school time. So organisation and planning, impulse control, listening skills, focus. And most of my clients, when they're not really interested in something like a lot of schoolwork, they can get very distracted, especially in a very talky environment. If you live your life, especially from playgroups onwards, you've come home from being with mum or dad, and then all of a sudden you're thrust into a people environment, and you're only picking up about 30% of what people are doing. It's a pretty scary condition to have when you're young, going to kinder and school. So for example, in primary school, a lot of my clients will have a partition in the corner of or a tent, when there might be a beanbag in there, and there might be some Lego in there, or an iPad in there even sometimes.
Timeout area.
And some parents get very antsy about that and go, oh my God, we're, teaching him to, exclude himself. And one funny story I had was, Mum was very upset that the school were planning to do this. And I said, look, just give it a go. And the kid was actually answering the questions from behind the partition. He was still with the class. He was in front of his Lego or whatever behind a partition, but he just couldn't handle all of those faces.
Even more capable, probably.
Yeah. I've diagnosed two people on Wednesday, and they had massive separation anxiety coming out of kinder into prep, and they were 5.5. But in some ways they were, you pluck me out of 3-year-old kinder and put me into prep, I reckon I'd be having panic attacks and not wanting to leave mum as well. So at 5, if you're rocking and flapping a bit, most kids aren't going to be that judgmental. When you're 10 and hormones are dribbling out and the whole cool project has started, in grade 4, grade 5, and if you're flapping and rocking, other kids are going to be very judgmental, sadly.
Geez, Bo's completely unaware of his environment, and he does not care.
Bo stimming, they're fairly extreme. Oh yes. Compared to the average person on the spectrum, and a lot of people do things like, hair twirling.
That is minimal.
Yeah, knee tapping, swaying. You'll get, when they're young, a lot of flappy, behaviour and jumping around. So I would even argue that, my clients who are very, very keen on video games, it's a form of sort of self-soothing. And the kids might be yelling and screaming with their mates online, but I'm tipping there's a whole bunch of dopamine flowing through that kid as he's in now a very structured place. And, good middle-class parents don't want their kids doing more than an hour, but some of my clients will need 3 hours.
That was something really helpful that you gave me. If you're 6 or 7 and acting 5 or 6, it's not a big deal. But if you're 12 and acting 10, it's a massive difference. But then when you're 40 and acting,
If IQ is reasonable, I'll just automatically knock off about 2 years off the child's chronological age to sort of get a feel of, where they are: social, emotional, organisation skills, listening skills. But if their IQ is lower, I will knock off other years. So, if they've got 80 IQ points, that might be more like a grade 3, grade 4 kid going into year 7. So that's a huge jump. If you pluck me out of grade 5 and put me into my year 7 class, I would have put my pants as well. So
when I was at school, we had that jocks and hot chicks and nerds and we had those. And now it seems to be more label based. Kids are grouping together via labels. So you've got your ADHD kids and you've got your non-binary and kids, and then you've got and they're finding their little groups through diversity as opposed to mainstream movie stuff that used to be.
So you read any book on autism, there will always be stuff about transition, right? So going from kinder to prep, grade 6 to year 7, year 12 to TAFE and uni to work. Year 7, though, is a very tough year because you sort of, if you're on the spectrum, there's too much work. Like, if I was in grade 5, could I have done 10 subjects, 8 teachers, 7 different classrooms? No, I couldn't. So, I think year 7, it's a real finding yourself sort of time, like it's a real, who am I and who do I belong to? And too many of my clients, unfortunately, try to be in the cool group and then come a cropper, really. It's really very tough.
Yeah, Bo's just completely unaware of those groups altogether.
Yeah,
and when I say to him, have you got any friends? He's like, yeah, everyone.
Yes, that's
like,
right.
They're all my friends because no one's mean to him.
That's fantastic, yeah. I still like Lorna's descriptions of the different groups across the spectrum. So she talked about an aloof group, a passive group, which a lot of our girls have, that presentation, and what she called active but odd. She said, look, essentially there'll be 3 groups. There's actually a 4th group that we rarely see. But, so Bo's clearly, by the sound still, has got more of that aloof-ish, passive presentation. So he's not perturbed by, he's not feeling that where I would argue the vast majority of people that I would see would be not content to walk around the yard and just chill. They feel that sort of hormonal pull to be in the group and to be popular, and and that causes a lot of drama between sort of grade 5 and year 9. And so and that, when you were talking before about the groups at school, I still think there's the populars and the jocks and the sporty guy, and the cool muso group, but now we've got the neurodiverse crowd of the LGBTQI group and the ADD group. That tribe tend to find each other sort of by about year 8, year 9, and it's a terrific thing, because that's a very accepting group often. But bullying is still a big part of mainstream school. The more socially switched on ones recognise the vulnerability, recognise the weakness, recognise the little quirks, and then if you're different and year 8, bang. And so I still argue there's still a lot of bullying going on.
Look, I do know that Bo once got bullied. Some kid and it was in year 7 or year 8, I can't remember, but luckily enough they bullied him in a way that was completely beyond him, and he said, why don't you leave the autism on the bus? And Bo looked...
I don't even know what that means.
No, but he got bullied and he just didn't get it. Like, why don't you just leave the autism on the bus? And Bo was like, and he came home and he said it, and he was like, there was no bus. Like,
Yes, it might have gone over his head. The way I conceptualise all of this is that, the hormone years, say grade 5 to year 9, grade 5 to year 9 is what keeps me in business.
Yeah.
Right? Because... hormones start dribbling out at around 10. The cool project starts, and some of my clients don't even know they're on the spectrum.
This minuscule difference that you're talking about, the socially aware, is almost what makes it the difficult part, because they want to fit in, but they don't, and they're aware that they're not fitting in, but they're not out and proud.
Some of them haven't been told that they're on the spectrum. I know. So they try their darndest to fit in, and kids are very subtle. Like I've got clients that are really good at football or basketball, and their teammates. And the kid will be in the right position and their teammate won't pass them the ball. Even the coach has said, if he's over there, pass the ball, and they won't pass the ball to him. And that's a form of bullying, right? So that sort of stuff, and you come home then thinking, I did what the coach, I thought the kids like me, but they don't kick the ball to me. What's the matter with me? I must be. And remember, when my clients are young, they're very black and white in their thinking. I'm either awesome or I'm rubbish. So there's not a lot of reasoning, there's not a lot of grey. That's why a lot of my clients are on melatonin, because they can't sleep at night going through, because, what am I doing wrong? So there's obvious bullying, but there's a lot more subtle stuff going on, and a lot of my more able clients are really picking up on that exclusion. I mean, before this term masking, we used to call our girls, we say you've got actress syndrome, because they were fantastic actresses and they wouldn't get diagnosed at 8. They might have seen a psychologist or a paediatrician, but they'd get diagnosed at 14, no problem, because all of that masking caused a lot of anxiety and then a big depression, and then somebody goes, maybe she's on the spectrum, and that's when they come. Why weren't you picked up earlier? And the parent will say, well, she used to love going to the doctors and answering the questions, but now she can't go to school because she's so, exhausted and depressed. So, it's tricky. I mean, the average kid on the spectrum doesn't want to come to a psychologist and talk about their feelings, right? I've got kids that are brought, and they don't get out of the car park. One kid was very funny and just said, Mum, just give me the money that you pay Richard, because everything is fine in his office, but then Dad gets cross at me, or my teacher gets cross at me, all of his words disappear, and I then go and do what I've done 100 times before, which is usually, a bit of behavioural meltdown. Treat me like a 25-year-old and I'm going to get on fine. It's just hard, though, when the kid's 10, it's a school night and he's still playing Minecraft, and come on, darling, it's time to get off. Oh, no, but I've got to finish this level, blah, blah, blah.
I started to teach both self-management. So if I heard that, I would immediately grab him and I would say, walk away. Right? Yeah. So I was teaching him
emotional regulation.
Right. So whatever, I didn't necessarily know what was making the trigger, but I was teaching him, when I hear that, walk away. Now, it worked brilliantly right up until he went to school, and they said, okay, now we're doing light and maths, and Bo got up and went, this gives me anxiety, and left.
Right.
I got a phone call from the school going, he just walked out of class, and I was like, my fault.
Sure.
We'll work on it.
Yeah. And this is why a lot of my clients don't like coming to see a psychologist, because they're not coming to a psychologist to hear about how awesome they are. They're coming because there's some problem. And again, I talk about the Autism heart. I just want to be seen as good and smart. So it's much better for me to talk to that parent or talk to that teacher. And so that's what I tend to do a lot of.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, because I'm starstruck, awestruck. We all are. Please keep going for all of us. But yeah, I thank you so much, and for doing this today and everything that you do. It's just so needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Gemma.
All right.
Cheers.
Thanks.
Bye.